Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I'm extremely honored and elated to be here. And the reason for that is simply that someone like me, with a very niche interest area, rarely finds an opportunity to tell our side of the story. So I would like to thank and congratulate DG Senjos and Dr. Das for not only giving me this opportunity, but for coming up with this topic and conceptualizing the seminar and also successfully conducting it. Today I'll be talking about preserving India's maritime past, archaeological narratives for tourism and coastal growth, or rather, marine archaeological narratives for tourism and coastal growth. Let's begin with a basic understanding of archaeology and marine archaeology. What's the difference? So, archaeology is the scientific study of human past, and we do that by investigating material remains, which is tangible remains. And we do that similarly in marine archaeology as well. The only difference being marine archaeology is the study of man's relationship with the sea, what transpired out of it, socio-polity, economy, food, tradition, belief system, everything. That's to be, in the most simplest terms to explain what is marine archaeology. It involves both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. There are also further specializations of marine archaeology, for example, nautical archaeology, which deals with the study of shipwrecks alone, and also underwater archaeology, which happens to be my specialization, which deals with the study of submerged wrecks or maritime finds. Now, since yesterday, and I think even the previous speaker, everyone's spoken and well established about, has established India's maritime legacy. So we know that India, our maritime past can be traced back, according to the records, to the Indus Valley civilization. We have the world's first dockyard at Lothal. We have boat designs on seals. We have terracotta models of boats which were found near Lothal. Similarly, similar artifacts were also found in Bahrain and Mesopotamia, which further signifies that there was trade happening and there was international trade happening right back at the Harappan civilization. Now, along with this, apart from trade, what was also happening was there was a lot of cultural amalgamation which was taking place. So, a very good example of this is the spread of Buddhism. It actually happened. A major part of it actually happened through sea routes. Now, we also need to understand that we as Indians, our culture, we are very much, a culture which worships water. We have Varuna, our water deity. We worship our rivers. So it's a very integral part of our culture. Then we also interestingly have literary evidences which can further be corroborated with archaeological evidences. For example, Mahabharata talks about Dwarka, and of course, everybody knows about Dwarka. So we have had some really path-breaking discoveries when we talk about marine archaeology in India. So the father of marine archaeology in India is Dr. S.R. Rao, and about 1981 is when the first excavation started taking place in Dwarka. So I'll just mention quickly some of the, like I said, path-breaking discoveries that happened in India with respect to marine archaeology. So we all know Dwarka, we all know Bet Dwarka, Mool Dwarka, Somnath, of course, Kaveri Patnam, Pattanam in Kerala, Sopara in Mumbai, Kuntasi, Dholavira, and all these sites have not only, we've not only discovered inscriptions, we've found anchors, we've found semi-precious stones, we've also found structures like storehouses, which further cement the fact that all these places were actually sprawling, trade hubs back then. Now, here I would like to mention that while these, these developments indicate that we have done substantial research when it comes to marine archaeology in India, but currently nothing much is happening. So we are in a stagnant state. And another point that I would like to mention here is that the study of marine archaeology globally has experienced a late genesis. And one of the prime reasons for that is that it is extremely difficult for a human to breathe underwater. We can't breathe underwater. So it all began with various experiments for humans to stay underwater for as long as they could until the 1940s, when the aqua lung, which was discovered by, which was designed by rather the engineer Costo. That's when actually things started taking, it just kind of catalysted from there. And these 2 points, please hold on to these 2 points. I will talk about this and I'll join it at the end of the, to the later part of my talk. Now let's talk about marine archaeology and the potential of coastal tourism. So how can we benefit? So India has about 3,477 coastal villages, and we have both tangible and intangible cultural heritage here. So it's not only the forts, the the beaches, the lighthouses, but it's also the culture. It's also the festivals. It's also the water sports. So these are the kind of offerings that these towns actually hold in terms of the potential for marine archaeology or coastal tourism. Now, there are many states which are successfully already leveraging the coastal tourism: Goa, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat. So what difference can be, what difference can marine archaeology bring here? So we can call this sun and sand tourism. So to move beyond sun and sand tourism, what we can do, for example, um, underwater heritage trails like boats with glass bottoms, which is already happening in Greece and Italy. Lighthouse tourism is already, that project has already been taken, started by the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways Initiative. We know about the NMHC complex at Lothal. Many people have spoken about it. We can also look at leveraging Sagar Mala project, Swadesh Darshan 2.0 for infrastructural development. So as someone who's also had a background in museology, now if I want to build more maritime museums, so this conventional approach of having a site museum is not going to work, because these days everybody wants technology. So the inclusion of technology is extremely important, because AR, VR, digital reconstructions, maps, mobile apps to make heritage more accessible to the current generation or to the people now is extremely important. To further bring more clarity, I would like to mention a case study, INS Guldar. It was recently there in the newspapers. I don't know if anyone's actually gone through it. So INS Guldar is a decommissioned Indian Navy warship which is being sunk, in Sindhudurg, and it's a Ministry of Tourism project, and it's basically it's being done to create an artificial reef. So what is it going to do? It's going to promote ecotourism, scuba diving and submarine tours. It's going to support marine biodiversity and marine archaeological research. And of course, it can also offer paddy certified diving and other employment avenues for locals. So basically, this project is a really good example of synergy possible between marine archaeology, tourism, and conservation. So while this is a great project, but something that I would like to highlight here is that there are many, many wrecks in the Indian waters that are lying. They can be British, Portuguese, Dutch. So they are historically relevant, but we've not discovered them. So that potential is there. Of course, we'll talk about the challenges of marine archaeological studies. So while INS Guldar is a great initiative, because it's going to be India's first underwater museums, but while we are doing this, why aren't we tapping in the potential that we already have? What about the, if not thousands of relevant shipwrecks that are lying there, which also has this historical significance? So now to the last part of this talk, let's talk about constraints of working underwater, or what are the challenges of marine archaeology. Because if you go back a couple of minutes ago, I said that marine archaeology is a very niche discipline in India, and nothing much is happening. So a lot has happened. So if you look at it graphically, and then right now nothing is happening. So why is that gap? So firstly, there are a lot of constraints of working underwater. As I said, marine archaeology as a discipline has evolved very slowly globally, and then in India further slowly, because there are temperature fluctuations, there is visibility problem, of course there's threat from the marine flora fauna, then there are restricted specific depths up to which a person can dive, and of course there's nitrogen narcosis, to name just a few constraints of working underwater. And then there are also operational challenges. So it's not easy to do scuba diving. So today, if you want to go and have a certification in PADI, so it's going to cost you quite a lot. Less than a lakh, but still that's a lot of money. So the operational costs of conducting these scuba diving researches is expensive. Then if you want to conduct a marine archaeological research project, you need to have specialized divers, someone who's at least advanced level PADI certified diver. So all these challenges are to begin with at the domain level. Then coming to the challenges at the administration level, and what is happening in our country. So, yesterday someone rightly mentioned, I'll wind up in 2 minutes. Yesterday somebody mentioned that while we talk about maritime, we are primarily talking about security. And second, I think about maritime history. Something which gets completely neglected is marine archaeology. So, I think when we talk about the heritage part of it, we are kind of still sea blind. We don't have enough domain experts, we don't have specialized courses. Even whatever courses are being offered, they do not offer any kind of practical training. So without a practical training, marine archaeology is, if I may say, it's not even useful, because it's a very, very practical discipline, and the kind of studies that it offers is and should be implementable in research. And of course, there is no clear identity or path as how to become a marine archaeologist in India. Nobody has that covered. And of course, there is absence of underwater heritage law in India. It's a very, very vast topic, but worth mentioning. So what can we do? How can we move ahead? A holistic approach. Firstly, we need to change our idea of research. Research should not just be restricted to or have a very scholarly approach, because when we talk about awareness and documentation of these sites, we need to be on the same team with the laymen. So how do we promote this awareness? And that's only going to happen when we do our research, but when the output of that research is in a snackable way, which gets connected to the audience. Maybe podcasts, maybe infotainment books, maybe more documentaries, not a conventional research paper or a 250-page book. So we'll need to change our approach. We'll need to bridge the gap between the layman and the professionals, because this is happening everywhere in the West. They do excavation on a site, they're doing live broadcasts, they're opening it for the public. So not only are they making their fellow countrymen proud of their heritage, but they're also generating revenue out of it. So that's a very smart model, which I think we should you know take inferences from. Of course, I mentioned we need more academic courses, we need more field training, and lastly, I think marine archaeology contributes to national pride, sustainable tourism, job creation. It also helps us to track ecological changes. You can actually use it in modern day construction business. So many of us aspire for sea-facing houses, but how accurate is the construction of the sea-facing house can actually be tracked by marine or marine archaeological studies in that area, because it will tell you the erosion or the shoreline changes. Lastly, I think we need synergy, we need collaborations. I'll just mention, and you can all look up to it later. There have been naval collaborations. San Jose it's known as a holy grail. You can all Google it later. So in Colombia, and also in Canada. So there are naval divers there who have collaborated with the marine archaeologists, and they are working together on marine archaeology. So I think what I would like to suggest, that in India also, since we have lack of domain experts, since we have financial constraints, we should all come in together and try to take this domain ahead. And I would like to end by saying the path is not lost beneath the waves. It's waiting to be rediscovered, retold, and revered by the divers, dreamers, and the decision makers of today. Thank you so much for your patience.